What I want to do next, now that I have effectively tap danced through this, is I want to introduce Bo Barnes. Bo is the Deputy Executive Secretary for TRS. We're so appreciative for him to be here today. He's going to give an overview of the TRS. He's done this a few different times. He's going to maybe dispel some misinformation that's out there. If you have some specific questions for him, you're welcome to ask, but also understand that he's under, he's going to be somebody that's going to be needed to answer lots of questions across the Commonwealth. So that's why I'm asking him to go first. And he'll stick around for a few minutes when I get asked questions, but it'll be the flavor and the formality of the presentation may change a little bit when Bo gets done. But we're certainly appreciative to have you here, and we thank you for your hard work trying to do what's best for us as both teachers and also for all of our classified staff. So Bo Barnes.
Thank you very much for inviting me here tonight to talk to you about your retirement system, the Teachers Retirement System, or TRS. I have a PowerPoint that normally takes half an hour or so, and I'm not going to go through all these slides, so I'm going to try to get through it in about 10 minutes. And I think it's important because it gives you some good information about your retirement system and what's going on with it, because unfortunately there is a lot of misinformation out there. So with that, let's begin. Teachers Retirement System was, of course, it was established by Act of the General Assembly in 1938. We opened our doors for business in 1940. Teachers were not allowed to participate in Social Security when that federal program came about in 1935. So TRS was set up as a Social Security replacement plan and remains that way today. In the 1950s, federal government allowed states and municipalities to put their public employees in Social Security. Some did, many did not. In Kentucky, state employees were put into Social Security because their current retirement system, KRS, did not exist then. Teachers were not put into Social Security. That was a decision by the Commonwealth of Kentucky. It wasn't a vote by teachers. It was a policy decision of the Commonwealth, and the state of the region was Social Security cost too much. Today, we have more than 50,000 people who receive a benefit from TRS. We pay out, just in that monthly pension check, $166 million a month. And the average benefit is about $38,000 a year. Remember, that has to replace Social Security too. We're a long-term investor. So when we take your money and we invest it, we're not looking at 1, 3, 5, 10-year horizons. We're looking like 30-plus year horizons, okay? We are a large institutional investor, so a very long-term investment horizon. So we don't get too shook up if there's a bad year in the market or bad 2 or 3 or 5 years in the market. Or do we get too excited when we have some good years? That said, the year that just ended, the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2017, was a fantastic year for TRS. Our in-house investment staff, and we have a number of in-house investment staff, chartered financial analysts with decades worth of investment experience, and our outside investment consultant, money managers, just did a fantastic job because our returns for that year was 15.37%. One national publication ranked us number 4 in the country, in the entire country among public pension plans for these returns. So again, great news there. But and I'm going to show you some, let's go ahead and look at some of these. Well, you can't see all of this, but 3 of the 5 of the last years we had double-digit returns. 3 out of the last 5 years. And 5 out of the last 8 years we had double-digit returns. So great news there with, the staff taking your money, investing it, and doing a great job to grow it over your careers. And this is very important, these investments, because it's not your contributions, it's not the employer contributions that pay for the majority of retirement benefits. It's investment income. Your contributions to the retirement system, the employer's contributions, are exhausted in about 7 years. Every other year of a teacher's retirement is paid for with investment income. So that's why investments are so important. And just active teachers, I'll just let you know, do not pay for retired teachers' retirement allowances. So the dollars you contribute are not being used to pay for retired teachers' health or retired teachers' benefits. It's the investment income that pays the majority of that. So with these investment returns, it shows our assets that we have under management And you see how they've grown. It's from the left, you get to the early years, to the right, you get the most recent fiscal year ending June 30th, 2017. We now have over $19 billion under management to invest to provide for your retirement allowances. And that's a record. Very quickly here, I'm not going to spend much time, it's actuarial, but I'll just show you something here I think you need to know. This is an actuarial slide. See the upper right hand number, 54.6%? That is the funded status of your pension fund as of June 30th, 2016. So what does that mean? That means we had a little over half of all the money we needed to pay for all the retirement benefits that they're already earned and payable due to retired teachers and to active teachers. Because everybody in this room has some measure of that liability. So we're just closing down our doors for business. Teachers don't teach anymore, no new teachers coming in, no more money coming in. We just freeze the plan. We'd have a little bit over half of everything that we need to pay for all the benefits are already due. And this number over here, the 14,531, that's millions. So that means we had a shortfall of $14,531 million as of June 30th, 2016. So you know what? That's a big number, but we're not overly, we're concerned. We need to work on that. But it's not a crisis because we have a long time to pay that off. Because those benefits, those liabilities I'm talking about, those aren't due. That $14.5 billion isn't due next year, even 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 30, decades and decades and decades from now. That will be paid off to even active teachers starting their first year in the classroom. So we got a long time to pay it off, and that's the goal. We're trying to get additional funding for your pension fund to pay off that unfunded liability over a 30-year period, just like paying off a home mortgage. And the state has struggled with that because, just point to one thing, the 2008 Great Recession, okay? Economy tanked, revenue dried up, budgets were very difficult. We started getting additional funding to start paying off that unfunded liability, and the budgets just wouldn't support it. But, and I've got a good slide to show you after this, or to show you where we are now. But we're actually about in our 27th year in that mortgage, okay? So we're trying to pay off that $14.5 billion over the 27-year remaining in our amortization period. I'll point at this number, the 21.9%. That's the funded status of your medical insurance fund that pays for retired teachers' health insurance. I know that looks a lot smaller, and it is smaller, of course, than the pension funded status, but that's actually a good news number. That's a good news number because as a result of legislation enacted in 2010, that is a very healthy fund. And 2 slides from now, I'm going to show you why that's a very healthy fund. You're probably aware, as a result of that 2010 legislation, active teachers, retired teachers under the age of 65, and school districts all started paying more into this medical insurance fund. And retired teachers' health insurance, which was a benefit that some people thought could not be saved, because it didn't establish on pay-as-you-go basis back in 1964, dollars in, dollars out. A lot of people thought it couldn't be saved. That 2010 legislation saved it. I'm going to show you what a good news story that is here in just 2 slides from now. Here's the first of the good news slides. So in this current budget biennium, the 2016 to 2018 budget biennium, we've been asking for this additional money since 2008, and the budget just hadn't been provided to start paying off that unfunded liability. But the great news in the current budget biennium is we requested an additional $1,030 million, and we received an additional $973 million. So we got 94% of all the additional funding that we needed, which is fantastic news. It's a complete sea change at the retirement system. And I'm thankful for the Governor and General Assembly for providing this additional money in our budget, because it's turned everything around. Not only are we now back on our funding plan, but this has helped dramatically with investments, because we had a negative cash flow issue before we got this additional funding. We didn't have enough money coming in to pay benefits going out, so that meant our investment crew had to sell assets, investments every month. Lots of times things they didn't want to sell, usually things they didn't want to sell, just to pay for benefits going out. That's all turned around now. We have a very manageable cash flow, and so this is fantastic news. And this really is, this is the issue, okay? This is the whole issue facing TRS. It's not the structure of the plan. It's not the benefits that you're getting. It's paying off this unfunded liability. If we didn't have this unfunded liability, this shortfall in assets to pay for all the benefits that are already been earned and due, I wouldn't be here now. Because after this 30-year period, now 27 years, when we get this unfunded liability paid off, we get to 100% funded status. The cost of TRS is about the same cost as Social Security, but it provides a lot bigger benefit, a lot bigger. In fact, almost 3 times as much as the average Social Security benefit in Kentucky. Why is that? Because we actually have assets, we invest, stocks, real estate, timberland, we own super Lowe's and super Walmarts, and all those things generate investment income over the career of a teacher to help pay for their benefit, whereas Social Security is basically backed by T-bills. So, great news, great news. Here's another good news slide. This is a medical insurance fund. You can see before 2010, this is 2010, never even had 4% of all the assets it needed for all the benefits that were due. The result of that 2010 legislation, you can see how beautifully it's grown. 7.5, climbing sharply up to 21.9% as of last fiscal year. I'm using last fiscal year because we're still working on the 2017 numbers, reconciling those numbers. But this is a huge success story. Retired teacher health insurance is now funded, it's now saved. And this is just, we kept a couple of things, but you know, sometimes you read the papers about retirement systems being a drag or a drain on the state. I think it cost all this money. The thing about the contributions that come in, they don't go down a dark hole, never be seen again. Again, they're invested over the career of a teacher, they come back out again in the form of benefits. So I told you about the $166 million a month that's paid out in retirement pension, another $24 million in medical, and 89% of our retirees stay in Kentucky. So 89% of those dollars filter out through every county in the Commonwealth of Kentucky. It's a huge economic driver for Kentucky. And a lot of counties, the biggest employer is a school district. The second biggest employer would be, if it was considered a payroll, would be the teacher's retirement pay to the retired teachers in that county. And that's because they're putting money away from day one. A large sum of money from day one that is invested over their careers. Let's skip a little bit for time. I'm just going to sort of summarize what happened with these slides. There's a lot of talk about pension reform, and we have reporters call us and go, what's that doing for retirements? Are you seeing a spike in retirements? We didn't during our regular retirement season, but we're starting to. We're starting to have record numbers of visitors at the office, record numbers of phone calls, and the month of November, for our November 1 retirement, we're seeing a 64% increase over what we saw last year. This is an interesting slide. I'll just show you this really quickly. There's some good facts on here. So this shows for our last retirement season, when we're just finished, the age, the most common ages at which our members retire. And you can see the top right-hand corner, our average retirement age for this last season, and it's similar to what we have overall, was 59. A lot of people think all teachers retire at 49. They're 10 years off. But anyway, you see these bars here. There's one that really stands out. That's 55. Those are the number of teachers who retired at age 55 this past summer. And it's not a coincidence. That bar is high because our board, the Board of Trustees, saw back in the early 2000s that teachers were retiring too soon, 27 years. That was bad for the retirement system because we were paying out pension benefits years earlier than our actuaries would have anticipated. And it was bad for the member because a lot of those members were retiring too soon. 27 years or 49, they hadn't really built up their pension sufficiently to take care of them for the rest of their life. So one of the things our board did is they said, with the help of the General Assembly, for our teachers who retire with at least 27 years of service and who are at least age 55, that your retirement allowance is calculated in your 3 highest rather than your 5 highest salaries. So it was a carrot to incentivize teachers to stay. You look at this, it worked. It worked very well. It shows that carrots, incentives, do work to change retirement patterns. So that high 3 calculation, as we'll call it the high 3, goes away. That tall bar at 55 isn't going to stay the same. It's going to shrink. And it's not going to move to the right, it's going to move to the left. Another thing about the perception that teachers retire at age 49, actually less than 5% of our teachers, less than 5% retire before age 50. And we have 4 times as many people who retire at age 60 and over than we do who retire under age 50. And our average years of work for our career teachers, 30 years. This is your board. This is your board of trustees. Very importantly, you elect 7 of these folks, and they're independent fiduciaries, and they have only your interest and interest of the retirement system at heart. So that's very, very important. For interest of time, I'm not going to go over all of them, but this is a very key part of your retirement system, and it's why this board has done a great job managing your retirement system very well. Just a couple of these things. Average retirement age has increased from 54 to 59 when I joined the retirement system in 1999. The average age of retirement was 54, again to 59. We don't use hedge funds. And only just because of time, cost of living adjustments. So retired teachers, by statute, are provided a 1.5% cost of living adjustment every July 1st, okay? And further, they pay for that, okay? Part of their contribution to the retirement system, the teacher's retirement system, goes to help pre-fund that, and it's matched by the state. So it's not an unfunded cost of living adjustment. In fact, TRS does not have unfunded cost of living adjustments. You read about that a lot with Kentucky retirement systems. We always get confused with that agency. At TRS, we don't have unfunded COLAs. We have a 1.5% COLA that's hardwired in statute that you pay for over your career. It's pre-funded. And the reason we have this is because we're a Social Security replacement plan. Social Security routinely provides cost of living adjustments to help Social Security to keep up with the CPI. If our teachers didn't have this 1.5%, they wouldn't have a cost of living adjustment for their retirement, unlike what retired state employees would have who participate in Social Security. This just shows that the fees that TRS and the management board is able to negotiate to have your money invested among the lowest in the nation, 29/100ths of 1 percentage point. So that's just not us saying, even the General Assembly's own staff did a study of us in 2012 and issued a report and said confirmed that TRS has among the lowest investment fees in the country. And the same thing about investment, just administrative expenses to operate the system among the lowest in the nation. And you can look, again, it's kind of interesting, we've been in operation since 1940, and we've only had 5 executive secretaries, only 5 agency heads, so there's a lot of stability, a lot of continuity there. This just shows our historic rates of return. You can see we're in the top 8% for the last year, top 9% for the 10-year period, and this is a very important number. I told you we're a long-term investor, 8.1% for the average 30-year return. This very quickly, this breaks down, and I'm going to wrap up here. This breaks down retirement allowances by $5,000 increments, okay? So sometimes people will confuse, they'll say teachers' pensions are too lavish. And I don't care what size pension our members have. They're all actuarially sound. Okay, and I'll talk about that in a minute, but let's just look where our teachers are with their pensions. What are they actually drawing? Because lots of times we'll hear extreme examples. This is $0 to $5,000, this first bar, okay? So that means, and there's a white number at the top, 2,466. That means that as of last fiscal year, we paid 2,466 people between $0 and $5,000 in retirement benefits. Obviously, this group did not have much service in TRS. It's somebody who came in for 5 years and left, got vested, left, or it's somebody whose reciprocity service was one of the other state retirement systems and has most of their service with CERS, for example. But look at here. Most of our teachers are in the $35,000 to $40,000 range, okay? That's where most of our teachers' retirements are. And remember, that has to replace Social Security too. So it's not lavish. The next highest amount, the rate is 40 to 45, then it goes to 30 to 35. That's where the bulk of our teachers are. But the focus usually, by some, is down here. Okay, so we have someone who's making between $200,000 and $205,000 in retirement allowance. And I don't know who they are. I mean, I can find out, but I haven't looked them up. I know three things about them. They're not a classroom teacher. When they were working, they were very highly compensated. We have 5 universities in our field of membership. Think about that, 5 universities. So they are among the highest compensated public employees in the Commonwealth of Kentucky. That's the second thing I know about them. Which means they also contributed more to the retirement system. Because you contribute a percentage of your paycheck to the retirement system. It's 12.855%. So they made a 12.855% contribution on higher salaries, which means they had more money coming in. It's kind of like some of the 401k account. You know, those are making higher salaries, usually are having more put away in. So it's actuarially sound. This account is actually sound for that reason alone. But the other thing I know about this person, this orange line, that represents average years of service for each group. This person worked 48 years. 48 years. So that's an actuarially sound account. So I just want to tell you, despite what sometimes I hear, your pensions are not lavish. They're worked hard for. You put money away for those, and you deserve them. So anyway, I'm going to let the superintendent take this now.